Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, niha, buenos dias, heseche, aquaba, welcome. What up, though? This is the weekly recorded recitations of Holy Scriptures. Today is 125.1.6, semicolon 72, semicolon 1, new 7. The portion for this week is número 53, and that is Ha'azinu, within the Torah. That is Ha'azinu, which is Devarim 32, 1 a 32:52. Within the Bhagavad Gita, it is the Shraddhatraya Vibhaga Yogehe, which is numero 17 within the Bhagavad Gita. Within the Dhammapada, it is the Piya Vaga, the Koda Vaga, the Mala Vaga, the Dhammata Vaga, and the Magga Vaga, which are chapters 16 a 20. Within the Gospel, it is Acts 25 a 26. Within the Quran, it is Surah Al-Asr, Surah Al-Humaza, Surah Al-Fil, Surah Quraysh, Surah Al-Ma'un, and Surah Al-Qatar, which are surahs 103 a 108. And with the Tao Te Ching, it is chapters 70 a 75. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificato nomen tuum, vahegu sanam. Dau kedau fehung dau. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Siva mastu savajigatehem. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabbat. Fekako. Aquaba. Upendo na amani. Womejeka. Shishe. Kamosunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakantako. Talk adokashin good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Lord, the God. Ata Jamia Yata Afinami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Deus noster, qui es in celis, sanctificato nomen tuum, vahegu sanam. Dau kedau fehung dau. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kezanu bo mitzvotav v'tzivanu lasok b'devari Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Siva mastu savajigatehi. Sabe sata bhavantu sukhitata. Vagabia. Ubuntu. Shabono. Fekako. Aquaba. Upendo na amani. Womejeka. Sheshe. Kamosunida. Domo arigato. Pilama yelo wakantaka. Talk adokashin good. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Glory to God. Ata Jamia Yata Afinami. Aho. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Amen. Torah Ha'azinu, Devarim 32:1 a 32:52. Listen, O heavens, and I will speak, and let the earth hear the words of my mouth. My lesson will drip like rain, my word will flow like dew, like storm winds on vegetation and like raindrops on grass. When I call out the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. The deeds of the mighty rock are perfect, for all Adonai's ways are just. A faithful God without injustice. Adonai is righteous and upright. Destruction is not Adonai's. It is Adonai's children's defect, you crooked and twisted generation. Is this how you repay the Lord, you disgraceful, unwise people? Is Adonai not your creator, your master? Adonai has made you and established you. Remember the days of old. Reflect upon the years of other generations. Ask your far, and he will tell you, your elders, and they will inform you. When the Most High gave nations their lot, when Adonai separated the sons of man, Adonai set up the boundaries of peoples according to the number of the children of Israel. Because the Lord's portion is Adonai's people, Yaakov, the lot of Adonai's inheritance. Adonai found them in a desert land and in a desolate howling wasteland. Adonai encompassed them and bestowed understanding upon them. Adonai protected them as the pupil of Adonai's eye. As an eagle awakens its nest, hovering over its fledglings, it spreads its wings, taking them and carrying them on its pinions. So the Lord guided them alone, and there was no alien deity with Adonai. Adonai made them ride upon the high places of the earth, that they would eat the produce of the field. Adonai let them suck honey from a rock and oil from the mighty part of the crag, the cream of cattle and the milk of sheep, with the fat of lambs and rams of Bashan and he-goats, with kidneys of wheat, and it, the congregation of Israel, would drink the blood of grapes, which was as the finest wine. And Yeshurun became fat and rebelled. He grew fat, thick and rotund. Israel forsook the God who made them, and spurned the mighty rock of their salvation. They provoked Adonai's zeal with alien worship. They made Adonai angry with abominations deeds. They sacrificed to demons which have no power, deities they did not know, new things that only recently came, which your forefathers did not fear. You forgot the mighty rock who bore you, you forgot the God who delivered you. And the Lord saw this and became angry, provoked by Adonai's sons and daughters. And Adonai said, I will hide my face from them. I will see what their end will be, for they are a generation of changes. They are not recognizable as my children whom I have reared. They have provoked my jealousy with a non-deity, provoked my anger with their vanities. Thus I will provoke their jealousy with a non-people, provoke their anger with a foolish nation. For a fire blazed in my wrath and burned to the lowest depths. It consumed the land and its produce, setting aflame the foundations of mountains. I will link evils upon them. I will utilize up my arrows on them. They will sprout hair from famine, attacked by demons, excised by Meriri. I will incite the teeth of livestock upon them, with the venom of creatures that slither in the dust. From outside the sword will bereave and terror from within, young men and maidens suckling babes with venerable elders. I said that I would make an end of them, eradicate their remembrance from mankind. Were it not that the enemy's wrath was heaped up, lest their adversaries distort, lest they claim, our hand was triumphant, the Lord did none of this. For they are a nation devoid of counsel, and they have no understanding. If they were wise, they would understand this. They would reflect upon their fate. How can one person pursue 1,000, and two put 10,000 to flight, unless their mighty rock has sold them out, and the Lord has given them over? For their rock is not like our mighty rock. Nevertheless, our enemies sit in judgment. For their vine is of the vine of Sodom and of the field of Gomorrah. Their grapes are grapes of Rosh, and they have bitter clusters. Their wine is the bitterness of serpents and the bitterness of the ruthless cobras. It is not stored up with me, sealed up in my treasuries. Vengeance is poised with me, and it will pay at the time their foot stumbles. For the appointed day of their reckoning is near, and what is destined for them hastens. When the Lord will judge Adonai's people and will reconsider Adonai's servants, when Adonai sees that the power is increasing and none is controlled or strengthened. Then Adonai will say, where is their deity, the rock in which they trusted, who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their libations? Let them arise and help you, let them be your shelter. See now that it is I am the one, and there is no deity like me. I cause death and grant life, I strike but I heal, and no one can rescue from my hand. For I raise up my hand to heaven and say, as I live forever, when I sharpen the blade of my sword and my hand grasps judgment, I will bring vengeance upon my adversaries and repay those who hate me. I will intoxicate my arrows with blood, and my sword will consume flesh, from the blood of the slain and the captives, from the first breach of the enemy. Sing out praise, O you nations, for Adonai's people. Sing out honor, O you nations, for Adonai's people. For Adonai will avenge the blood of Adonai's servants, inflict revenge upon Adonai's adversaries, and appease Adonai's land and Adonai's people. And Moshe came and spoke all the words of this song into the ears of the people, he and Yehoshua the son of Nun. And Moshe finished speaking all these words to all Israel, and he said to them, Set your hearts to all of the words which I bear witness for you this day, so that you may command your children to observe to do all the words of this Torah. For it is not an empty thing for you, for it is your life, and through this thing you will lengthen your days upon the land to which you are crossing over the Jordan to possess it. And the Lord spoke to Moshe on that very day, saying, Go up this Mount Avarim to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is facing Jericho, and see the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel as a possession. And die on the mountain upon which you are climbing, and be gathered to your people, just as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his people. Because you betrayed me in the midst of the children of Israel at the waters of Merivat Kadesh, in the desert of Zin, and because you did not sanctify me in the midst of the children of Israel. For from a distance you will see the land, but you will not come there, to the land I am giving the children of Israel. And the Lord spoke to Moshe on that very day, saying, Go up this Mount Avarim to Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, that is facing Jericho, and see the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel as a possession. And die on the mountain upon which you are climbing, and be gathered to your people, just as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his people. Because you betrayed me in the midst of the children of Israel at the waters of Merivat Kadesh in the desert of Zin, and because you did not sanctify me in the midst of the children of Israel. For from a distance you will see the land, but you will not come there, to the land I am giving the children of Israel. Bhagavad Gita, Shradatra Ya Vibhaga Yogehe. Arjuna says, when men sacrifice to the angels with faith but discard injunctions of the scriptures, what is the nature of their devotion of Krishna? Is it sattva, rajas, or tamas? Sri Krishna says, the faith of men born of their individual natures is of three kinds. It is characterized by sattva, rajas, or tamas. Hear now concerning it. The faith of each man is in accordance with his natural disposition. A man, O Bharata, is made of his faith. What his faith is, that verily he is. Men in whom sattva prevails honor the angels. Men in whom rajas prevails honor demi-angels and demons. And men in whom tamas prevails honor ghosts and disembodied spirits. Those vain and conceited men who, impelled by the force of their lust and attachment, subject themselves to severe austerities not ordained by the scriptures, and fools that they are, torture all their bodily organs, and me too, who dwell within the body. Know that they are fiendish in their resolves. Even the food that is dear to all is of three kinds. Likewise are the sacrifices, austerities, and gifts. Hear now the distinctions between them. Food that promotes longevity, vitality, strength, health, pleasure, appetite, and that is succulent, oleaginous, substantial, and agreeable, is favored by people endowed with sattva. Food that is excessively bitter, sour, salty, hot, acrid, dry, and burning is liked by people endowed with rajas. It causes pain, grief, and disease. And food that is ill-cooked, tasteless, putrid, stale, unclean, and left over is favored by people endowed with tamas. That sacrifice is of the nature of sattva, which is offered according to the scriptural rules by those who expect no reward and who firmly believe that it is their duty to sacrifice. But that sacrifice which is performed in expectation of reward and for the sake of ostentation, know that to be of the nature of rajas. And that sacrifice which is not performed according to the scriptural rules, and in which no food is distributed, no hymns are chanted, and no fees paid, and which is devoid of faith, is said to be of the nature of tamas. Honoring of the angels, of the twice-born, of teachers, and of the wise, cleanliness, uprightness, continence, and non-violence, these are said to be the austerity of the body. Words that do not give offense, and that are truthful, pleasant, and beneficial, and also the regular recitation of the Vedas, these are said to be the austerity of speech. Serenity of mind, gentleness, silence, self-control, and purity of heart, these constitute the austerity of the mind. This threefold austerity practiced with supreme faith by steadfast men, without the desire for fruit, is said to be of the nature of sattva. The austerity that is practiced in order to gain respect, honor, and reverence, and for ostentation, is said to be of the nature of rajas. Its result is uncertain and transitory. The austerity that is practiced with a determination based on foolishness, by means of self-torture, or for the purpose of ruining another, is declared to be of the nature of tamas. That gift which is made to one who can make no return, and with the feeling that it is one's duty to give, and which is given at the right place and time and to a worthy person, such a gift is held to be of the nature of sattva. But that which is given for the sake of recompense, or with the expectation of fruit, or in a grudging mood, is accounted as of the nature of rajas. And the gift that is made without respect or with disdain, at an improper place and time, and to an unworthy person, is declared to be of the nature of tamas. Om Tat Sat. This has been declared as the threefold designation of Brahman. By means of it were created at the beginning the Brahmins, the Vedas, and the sacrifices. Therefore the acts of sacrifice, gift, and austerity enjoined by the scriptures are always begun by the followers of the Vedas with the utterance of Om. And with the utterance of Tat, and without seeking any recompense, are the various acts of sacrifice, austerity, and gift performed by those who seek liberation. The word Sat is utilized to denote reality and benevolence, and likewise, O Partha, the word Sat is utilized for an auspicious action. Steadfastness and sacrifice, austerity, and gift is also called Sat, and so too is any action connected therewith. Whatever sacrifice or gift is made, whatever austerity is practiced, whatever ceremony is observed, it is called Asat, non-existence, if it is done without faith. It is of no account here or hereafter. Dhammapada, Piya Vaga, Koda Vaga, Mala Vaga, Dhammata Vaga, Maga Vaga. 16 a 20. Piya Vaga 16. Giving himself to things to be shunned and not exerting where exertion is needed, a seeker after pleasures, having given up his true well-being, his true welfare, envies those intent upon theirs. Seek no intimacy with the beloved, and also not with the unloved, for not to see the beloved and to see the unloved both are painful. Therefore hold nothing dear, for separation from the dear is painful. There are no bonds for those who have nothing beloved or unloved. From endearment springs grief, from endearment springs fear. For one who is wholly free from endearment there is no grief, whence then fear? From affection springs grief, from affection springs fear. For one who is wholly free from affection there is no grief, whence then fear? From attachment springs grief, from attachment springs fear. For one who is wholly free from attachment there is no grief, whence then fear? From lust springs grief, from lust springs fear. From one who is wholly free from craving there is no grief, whence then fear?
From craving springs grief, from craving springs fear. For one who is wholly free from craving, there is no grief. Whence then fear? People hold dear him who embodies virtue and insight, who is principled, has realized the truth, and who himself does what he ought to be doing. One who is intent upon the ineffable nibbana, dwells with mind inspired by supramundane wisdom, and is no further bound by sense pleasures. Such a man is called one bound upstream. When, after a long absence, a man safely returns from a distance, his relatives, friends, and well-wishers welcome him home on arrival. As kinsmen welcome a dear one on arrival, even so his own benevolent deeds will welcome the doer of benevolence, who has gone from this world to the next. Coda Vaga 17. One should give up anger, renounce pride, and overcome all fetters. Suffering never befalls him who clings not to mind and body and is detached. He who checks rising anger as a charioteer checks a rolling chariot, him I call a true charioteer. Others only hold the reins. Overcome the angry by non-anger. Overcome the wicked by benevolence. Overcome the miser by generosity. Overcome the liar by truth. Speak the truth, yield not to anger. When asked, give even if you only have a little. By these three means can one reach the presence of the angels. Those sages who are inoffensive and ever restrained in body go to the deathless state, where having gone they grieve no further. Those who are ever vigilant, who discipline themselves day and night, and are ever intent upon nibbana, their defilements fade away. O Atula, indeed this is an ancient practice, not one only of today. They blame those who remain silent, they blame those who speak much, they blame those who speak in moderation. There is none in the world who is not blamed. There never was, there never will be, nor is there now a person who is wholly blamed or wholly honored. But the man whom the wise honor after observing him day after day is one of flawless character, wise and endowed with knowledge and virtue. Who can blame such a one as worthy as a coin of refined gold? Even the angels honor him. By Brahma, too, is he honored. Let a man guard himself against irritability in bodily action. Let him be controlled in deed. Abandoning bodily misconduct, let him practice benevolent conduct in deed. Let a man guard himself against irritability in speech. Let him be controlled in speech. Abandoning verbal misconduct, let him practice benevolent conduct in speech. Let a man guard himself against irritability in thought. Let him be controlled in mind. Abandoning mental misconduct, let him practice benevolent conduct in thought. The wise are controlled in bodily action, controlled in speech, and controlled in thought. They are truly well controlled. Malavaga 18. Like a withered leaf are you now. Death's messengers await you. You stand on the eve of your departure, yet you have made no provision for your journey. Make an island for yourself. Strive hard and become wise. Rid of impurities and cleansed of stain, you shall enter the celestial abode of the noble ones. Your life has come to an end now. You are setting forth into the presence of Yama, the king of death. No resting place is there for you on the way, yet you have made no provision for the journey. Make an island unto yourself. Strive hard and become wise. Rid of impurities and cleansed of stain, you shall not come again to birth and decay. One by one, little by little, moment by moment, a wise man should remove his own impurities as a smith removes his dross from silver. Just as rust arising from iron eats away the base from which it arises, even so their own deeds lead transgressors to states of woe. Non-repetition is the bane of scriptures. Neglect is the bane of a home. Slovenliness is the bane of personal appearance, and heedlessness is the bane of a guard. Unchastity is the taint in a woman. Stinginess is the taint in a giver. Taints, indeed, are all evil things, both in this world and the next. A worse taint than these is ignorance, the worst of all taints. Destroy this one taint and become taintless, O monks. Easy is life for the shameless one who is impudent as a crow, is backbiting and forward, arrogant and corrupt. Difficult is life for the modest one who always seeks purity, is detached and unassuming, clean in life and discerning. One who destroys life, utters lies, takes what is not given, goes to another man's wife, and is addicted to intoxicating drinks, Such a man digs up his own root even in this world. Know this, O benevolent man, evil things are difficult to control. Let not greed and wickedness drag you to protracted misery. People give according to their faith or regard. If one becomes discontented with the food and drink given by others, one does not attain meditative absorption, either by day or by night. But he in whom this discontent is fully destroyed, uprooted, and extinct, he attains absorption both by day and by night. There is no fire like lust, there is no grip like hatred, there is no net like delusion, there is no river like craving. Easily seen is the fault of others, but one's own fault is difficult to see. Like chaff one winnows others' faults, but one hides one's own, even as a crafty fowler hides behind sham branches. He who seeks another's faults, who is ever censorious, his cankers grow. He is distant from destruction of the cankers. There is no track in the sky. There is no track in the sky, and no recluse outside the Buddha's dispensation. Mankind delights in worldliness, but the Buddhas are free from worldliness. There is no track in the sky and no recluse outside the Buddha's dispensation. There are no conditioned things that are eternal, and no instability in the Buddhas. Dhammatavagga 19. Not by passing arbitrary judgments does a man become just. A wise man is he who investigates both right and wrong. He who does not judge others arbitrarily but passes judgment impartially according to the Dharma, that sagacious man is a guardian of law and is called just. One who is not wise because one speaks much. He who is peaceable, friendly, and fearless is called wise. A man is not versed in Dhamma because he speaks much. He who, after hearing a little Dhamma, realizes its truth directly and is not heedless of it, is truly versed in the Dhamma. A monk is not an elder because his head is gray. He is but ripe in age, and he is called one grown old in vain. One in whom there is truthfulness, virtue, inoffensiveness, restraint, and self-mastery, who is free from defilements and is wise. He is truly called an elder. Not by mere eloquence nor by beauty of form does a man become accomplished, if he is jealous, selfish, and deceitful. But he in whom these are wholly destroyed, uprooted, and extinct, and who has cast out hatred, that wise man is truly accomplished. Not by shaven head does a man who is indisciplined and untruthful become a monk. How can he who is full of desire and greed be a monk? He who wholly subdues evil, both small and great, is called a monk, because he has overcome all evil. He is not a monk just because he lives on others' alms. Not by abiding outward form does one become a true monk. Whoever here in the dispensation lives a holy life, transcending both merit and demerit, and walks with understanding in this world, he is truly called a monk. Not by observing silence does one become a sage, if he be foolish and ignorant. But the man is wise who, as if holding a balanced scale, accepts only the benevolent. The sage, thus rejecting the evil, is truly a sage. Hence he comprehends both present and future worlds. He is called a sage. He is not noble who injures living beings. He is called noble because he is harmless towards all living beings. Not by rules and observances, not even by much learning, nor by gain of absorption, nor by a life of seclusion, nor by thinking I enjoy the bliss of renunciation, which is not experienced by the worldling, should you, O monks, rest content, until the utter destruction of cankers, Arahatchak, is reached. Maghabhagga 20. Of all the paths, the Eightfold Path is the best. Of all the truth, of all the Dharma, the Four Noble Truths are the best. Of all things, passionlessness is the best. Of men, the Seeing One, the Buddha, is the best. This is the only path. There is none other for the purification of insight. Tread this path, and you will you will bewilder Mara. Walking upon this path, you will make an end of suffering. Having discovered how to pull out the thorn of lust, I make known the path. You yourselves must strive. The Buddhas only point the way. Those meditative ones who tread the path are released from the bonds of Mara. All conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. All conditioned things are unsatisfactory. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. All things are not self. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. This is the path to purification. The idler who does not exert himself when he should, who, though young and strong, is full of sloth, with a mind full of vain thoughts, such an indolent man does not find the path to wisdom. Let a man be watchful of speech, well controlled in mind, and not commit evil in bodily action. Let him purify these three courses of action and win the path made known by the great sage. Wisdom springs from meditation. Without meditation, wisdom wanes. Having known these two paths of progress and decline, let a man so conduct himself that his wisdom may increase. Cut down the forest, lust, but not the tree. From the forest springs fear. Having cut down the forest and underbrush and the underbrush, desire. Be passionless, O monks. For so long as the underbrush of desire, even the most subtle of a man towards a woman, is not cut down, his mind is in bondage like the sucking calf to its moor. Cut off your affection in the manner of a man who plucks with his hand an autumn lotus. Cultivate only the path to peace, Nibbana, as made known by the Exalted One. Here shall I live during the rains, here in the winter and summer. Thus thinks the fool. He does not realize the danger that death might intervene. As a great flood carries away a sleeping village, so death seizes and carries away the man with a clinging mind, doting on his children and cattle. For him who is assailed by death, there is no protection by kinsmen. None there are to save him, no sons, nor far, no relatives. Realizing this fact, let the wise man, restrained by living spirit, hasten to clear the path leading to Nibbana. Gospels, Acts 25 a 26. Three days after arriving in the province, Festus went up from Caesarea to Jerusalem, where the chief priests and the Jewish brethren leaders appeared before him and presented the charges against Paul. They requested Festus, as a favor to them, to have Paul transferred to Jerusalem, for they were preparing an ambush to kill him along the way. Festus answered, Paul is being held at Caesarea, and I myself am going there soon. Let some of your elders come with me, and if the man has done anything wrong, they can press charges against him there. After spending 8 or 10 days with them, Festus went down to Caesarea. The next day he convened the court and ordered that Paul be brought before him. When Paul came in, the Jewish brethren who had come down from Jerusalem stood around him. They brought many serious charges against him, but they could not prove them. Then Paul made his defense. I have done nothing wrong against the Jewish brethren law, or against the temple, or against Caesar. Festus, wishing to do the Jewish brethren a favor, said to Paul, Are you willing to go up to Jerusalem and stand trial before me there on these charges? Paul answered, I am now standing before Caesar's court, where I ought to be tried. I have not done any wrong to the Jewish brethren, as you yourself know very well. If, however, I am guilty of doing anything deserving death, I do not refuse to die. But if the charges brought against me by these Jewish brethren are not true, no one has the right to hand me over to them. I appeal to Caesar. After Festus had conferred with his council, he declared, You have appealed to Caesar you will go. A few days later, King Agrippa and Bernice arrived at Caesarea to pay their respects to Festus. Since they were spending many days there, Festus discussed Paul's case with the king. He said, "There is a man here whom Felix left as a prisoner." When I went to Jerusalem, the chief priests and the elders of the Jewish brethren brought charges against him and asked that he be condemned. I told them that it is not the Roman custom to hand over anyone before they have faced their accusers and have had an opportunity to defend themselves against the charges. When they came here with me, I did not delay the case, but convened the court the next day and ordered the man to be brought in. When his accusers got up to speak, they did not charge him with any of the crimes I had expected. Instead, they had some points of dispute with him about their own religion and about a dead man named Jesus, who Paul claimed was alive. I was at a loss how to investigate such matters, so I asked if he would be willing to go to Jerusalem and stand trial there on these charges. But when Paul made his appeal to be held over for the emperor's decision, I ordered him held until I could send him to Caesar. Then Agrippa said to Festus, "I would like to hear this man myself." He replied, "Mañana you will hear him." The next day Agrippa and Bernice came with great pomp and entered the audience room with the high-ranking military officials and the prominent men of the city. At the command of Festus, Paul was brought in. Festus said, "King Agrippa, and all who are present with us, you see this man. The whole Jewish brethren community has petitioned me about him in Jerusalem and here in Caesarea, shouting that he ought not to live any longer. I found that he had done nothing deserving of death, but because he had made his appeal to the emperor, I decided not to send him to Roma. But I have nothing definite to write to his majesty about him. Therefore I have brought him before you, all of you, and especially before you, King Agrippa, so that as a result of this investigation I may have something to write. For I think it is unreasonable to send a prisoner on to Rome without specifying the charges against him." Then Agrippa said to Paul, "You have permission to speak for yourself." So Paul motioned with his hand and began his defense. "King Agrippa, I consider myself fortunate to stand before you today as I make my defense against all the accusations of the Jewish brethren, and especially so because you are well acquainted with all the Jewish brethren, customs, and controversies. Therefore I beg you to listen to me patiently. The Jewish people all know the way I have lived ever since I was a child, from the beginning of my life in my own country and also in Jerusalem. They have known me for a long time and can testify, if they are willing, that I conform to the strictest sect of our religion, living as a Pharisee. And now it is because of my hope in what God has promised our ancestors that I am on trial today. This is the promise our 12 tribes hoping to see fulfilled as they earnestly serve God day and night. King Agrippa, it is because of this hope that these Jewish brethren are accusing me. Why should any of you consider it incredible that God raises the dead? I too also was convinced that I ought to do all that was possible to oppress the name of Jesus of Nazareth. And that is just what I did in Jerusalem. On the authority of the chief priests, I put many of the master's people in prison, and when they were put to death, I cast my vote against them. Many a time I went from one synagogue to another to have them punished and tried to force them to blasphemy. I was so obsessed with persecuting them that I even hunted them down in foreign cities. On one of these journeys I was going to Damascus with the authority and commission of the chief priests. About noon, King Agrippa, I was on the road. I saw a light from heaven, brighter than the soleil, blazing around me and my companions. We all fell to the ground, and I heard a voice saying to me in Aramaic, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me? It is hard for you to kick against the goads." Then I asked, "Who are you, Master?" "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," the Master replied. "Now get up and stand on your feet. I have appeared to you to appoint you as a servant and as a witness of what you have seen and will see of me. I will rescue you from your own people and from the Gentiles. I am sending you to them, to open their eyes and to turn them from darkness to light and from the power of Satan to God, so that they may receive forgiveness and of sins and a place amongst those who are sanctified by faith in me." So then, King Agrippa, I was not disobedient to the vision from heaven. First to those in Damascus, then to those in Jerusalem, and in all Judea, and then to the Gentiles. I preach that they should repent and turn to God and demonstrate their repentance by their deeds. That is why some Jewish brethren seized me in the temple courts and tried to kill me. But God has helped me to this very day, so I stand here and justify. So I stand here and testify to small and great alike. I am saying nothing beyond what the prophets and Moshe said would happen. That the Messiah would suffer, and as the first to rise from the dead would bring the message of light to his own people and to the Gentiles. At this point, Festus interrupted Paul's defense. "You are out of your mind, Paul," he shouted. "Your great learning is driving you insane." "I am not insane, most excellent Festus," Paul replied. "What I am saying is true and reasonable. The king is familiar with these things, and I can speak freely to them. I am convinced that none of these has escaped his notice, because it was done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know you do." Then Agrippa said to Paul, "Do you think that in such a short time you can persuade me to be a Christian?" Paul replied, "Short time or long, I pray to God that not only you, but all who are listening to me today may become what I am, except for these chains." The king rose, and with him the governor and Bernice and those sitting with them. After they had left the room, they began saying to one another, "This man is not doing anything that deserves death or imprisonment." Agrippa said to Festus, "This man could have been set free if he had not appealed to Caesar." Quran, Surah Al-Asr, Surah Al-Humaza, Surah Al-Fil, Surah Quraysh, Surah Al-Ma'un, Surah Qawta. 103 a 118. Surah Al-Asr. 103. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. By the token of time through the ages, verily man is in loss, except such as have faith and do righteous deeds and join together in the mutual teaching of truth and of patience and constancy. Surah Al-Humaza, 104. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Woe to every kind of scandalmonger and backbiter, who pileth up wealth and layeth it by, thinketh that his wealth would make him last forever. By no means. He will be sure to be thrown into that which breaks to portions. And what will explain to thee that which breaks to portions? It is the fire of wrath kindled to a blaze, the which doth mount right to the hearts. It shall be made into a vault over them, it in columns outstretched. Surah Al-Fil, 105. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Seest thou not how thy Lord dealt with the companions of the elephant? Did Allah not make their treacherous plan go astray? And Allah sent against them flights of birds, striking them with stones of baked clay. Then did Allah make them like an empty field of stalks and straw, of which the corn has been eaten up. Surah Quraysh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. For the covenants of security and safeguard enjoyed by the Quraysh, their covenants covering journeys by winter and summer. Let them adorn the Lord of this house, who provides them with food against hunger and with security against fear of danger. Surah Al-Ma'un, 170. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Seest thou one who denies the judgment to come? Then such is the man who repulses the orphan with harshness, and encourages not the feeding of the indigent. So woe to the worshippers who are neglectful of their prayers, those who want but to be seen of men, but refuse to supply even neighborly deeds.
Surah 108. Al-Qatr. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful.
To thee have we granted the fount of abundance. Therefore to thy Lord turn in prayer and sacrifice. For he who hateth thee, he will be cut off from future rope.
Dao Te Ching.
70 a 75. 70. My words are easy to understand, easy to practice. The world cannot understand, cannot practice. My words have basis, my actions have principle. People do not understand this, therefore they do not understand me. Those who understand me are few, thus I am highly valued. Therefore the sage wears plain clothes, but holds jade.
71.
To know that you do not know is highest. To know but think you know is flawed. Only when one recognizes the fault as fault, one can one be without fault. The sages are without fault because they recognize the fault as fault. That is why they are without fault. When people no longer fear force, they bring about greater force. Do not limit their place. Do not reject their livelihood. Because the ruler does not reject them, therefore they do not reject the ruler. Therefore the sages know themselves but do not glorify themselves, respect themselves but do not honor themselves. Thus they discard that and take this.
73.
The bold and daring will be killed. The bold and not daring will survive. Of these two, one may benefit, the other may harm. The one hated by heaven, who knows the reason? Even the sages still find this difficult. The Tao of heaven does not contend and yet excels in winning, does not speak and yet excels in responding, is not summoned and yet comes on its own, is unhurried and yet excels in planning. The heavenly net is vast, loose, and yet does not let anything slip through it. Loose and yet does not let anything slip through. People do not fear death. How can they be threatened with death? If people are made to constantly fear death, then those who act unlawfully, I can capture and kill them. Who would dare? There exists a master executioner that kills. If we substitute for the master executioner to kill, it is like substituting for the great carpenter to cut. Those who substitute for the great carpenter to cut, it is rare that they do not hurt their own hands.
75.
The people's hunger is due to the excess of their ruler's taxation, so they starve. The people's difficulty in being governed is due to the meddling of their ruler, so they are difficult to govern. The people's disregard for death is due to the glut in their ruler's pursuit of life, so they disregard death. Therefore, those who do not strive for living are better than those who value living.
Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim, Allahu Akbar. Deus nos daqui essenciales en lo que quitan a tu bahiku salam. Da kuda fehmta. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher tzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivam v'sokter b'aretz ha'olam. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Silva mastu sabrigatahim. Sabe sata b'vodu suchitata. Fagabiyam. Ubudu shabama. Fekakam. Akwaba. Upena amani. Umajagat. Shishet. Como se mira. Domo arigato. Kelma yelo wapata. Tapado v'shimgo. Gaviti. For all of the true blessings. Como the God. Atajama yata fanani aho. Shakti. Alhamdulillah Rahman Rahim, Allahu Akbar. Deus nos daqui essenciales en lo que quitan a tu bahiku salam. Da kuda fehmta. Ja. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher tzanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Silva mastu sabrigatahim. Sabe sata b'vodu suchitata. Fagabiyam. Ubudu shabama. Fekakam. Akwaba. Upenda amani. Umajagat. Shishet. Como se mira. Domo arigato. Kelma yelo wapata. Tapado v'shimgo. God, we thank you for all of your blessings. Come to God. Atajama yata fanani aho. Shakti. Amen. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Zajen, Adios, Te Jakaris, Asebe na Asomudwo, Kele Fred. Love and peace.